We're live?
And we're live!
What is up, everybody?
Hi, everybody. All right, I'm going to send one more tweet that says, come hang out. There it is. All right.
Beautiful.
Welcome to the... Thank you. Thank you, Rusty. All right. Welcome to the Soundrop live stream, where we pull back the curtain on music distribution. Should I say that every time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of like
going to
your
continue.
thing.
That's your tagline.
That's the one thing that I do. Hi, everybody. It's March.
I don't know what happened.
No.
I know. It already became March. And here we are doing another live stream, just like we do every month. Have we ever missed a month?
Yes.
We did miss a month? Which month? Oh, it was
Yeah,
January.
we stopped. We were at the
We're on
end of the
Mag.
month, and then we did like the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
Oh, I just remember MagFest. It's the only thing I remember.
That's right.
From January.
the massive mag over.
I did have a
Oh.
mag over. I'm
Yeah.
still magged over. And, you know, ever since we were at MagFest, I just can't stop thinking of ways to turn everything into a video game. And, in
Yeah.
fact, these guys didn't want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. Because the other night, we were out late eating sushi and drinking all kinds of different things.
All the best things.
And
All
yeah,
the best
and we were enjoying ourselves enough to the point where we decided we should just make the Soundrop sign-up flow a video game. Like,
Yes.
but not like a really challenging one, just like the first part of some kind of RPG, right?
I
Yeah,
think it's
no,
something
it's
like Stardew Valley.
Yeah, it's, you know,
Just mellow.
something to keep you engaged. And you may notice that we have started posting some sprite animations
We
to
have.
our
Where did we post these?
On
Probably on Twitter.
on Twitter.
You should check your feed, buddy.
Where was
Yeah.
I? I thought I was the feed.
No, you were on Rocky Butte,
I
my friend.
definitely, I texted it to both of you.
Yeah, and it's excellent.
Oh, maybe
work.
I do remember
Yeah.
that now.
Anyway, so we are
fast.
we are doing some sprite animation. So if you have feedback on characters or my awesome bottle of ranch soda, which we will repost.
Oh yeah, I remember the ranch soda.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
all right, so like registering an account, that's going to be normal.
Correct.
Wait, we're never going to do this, right? How
Well,
are we
yeah,
gonna
so
do-
we're,
No,
we,
we're
have,
gonna
we
do
haven't
this.
storyboarded it yet or anything, but the basic idea is, yeah, like
Okay.
creating an album, we would ask for all the metadata through walking around villages, getting questionable advice from questionable characters, and
Oh.
knowing how to navigate the ins and outs of metadata.
that.
And meanwhile, somebody just wants to set up a damn album. But I do
Also,
like.
wait.
So,
Well,
yes.
yeah.
I like the idea of like getting your cover song license out of some chest or something.
Yeah, and all the content approval team, they're going to be wizards in the sweater vest of content approval, and you hand them your scroll of metadata, and they review it for you. It will be very engaging, and will bring the fun back to music distribution.
That's
The
right.
fun was never in music distribution to begin
But it might be.
We can't bring it
It
back.
will be.
It will be.
Yeah.
And I think the funnest part of it would be like payout time, because then you're like a little character, like a little bank guy tells you how much you earned. But the thing is, as soon as you start having problems, then the whole thing just it just really pisses you off. You're like, damn it,
Well, see,
I can't update my payment information for some reason. Stupid guy. No, and he just keeps telling you the same annoying thing.
No, the idea is that it will really simplify things because you will be given more of a list of things to choose from instead of just entering a bunch of text and hoping it's correct. So we can really kind of program in the correct options
right.
and the viable options. So when you do go to content approval, you don't have to make changes. The
Right.
content approval team doesn't need to make changes for you. It just
Imagine,
So smooth.
imagine walking into a building and there's a shopkeeper and he says, "What can I get you?" And it's title versions, and you select the
Title version.
possible
What
title
can I
version.
get you? Title
Title
versions.
versions.
Which, yeah, and this costs 5 coins. And in order to get coins, you have to go read about something, perhaps.
maybe download a style guide.
You never know.
I like
We're still thinking about all of this, but there's a lot of potential here.
There's
Yeah.
a lot.
It's a little counterintuitive because usually you want to make those things as non-challenging as possible. So gamifying it
Adds
presents-
complexity that doesn't necessarily need to be there. However,
yeah.
it's very on brand.
It's fun.
So if you guys are for us doing a game, can you either tweet at us or put in the chat that you want this to be the music distribution video game? Because we would like feedback on this idea. So, I mean,
Yeah.
ideally we
would
could
have
make
to,
it happen.
We might have to like hire Colby or something to.
We'd have to
code
figure it out. Yeah, we have a couple options for engines. I have RPG Maker. Rebecca is looking at Unity Engine.
Of course, these guys think they can just program it themselves.
Well,
We can. I
yes.
got
Remember, I did an AR game in college.
Of course you did.
Of
I
course I
got
did.
my sprite to walk in Unity the other day. So
there you go.
There. Oh, thanks, Gerardo Gaming 21.
But
Nice.
all right,
All right, that's it. It's a done deal. We're
all
doing
right.
it.
Yep.
We'll be back on. No, all right. We may or may not do that. There's probably some other important things, and we should run it by. I wonder what Apple would think of that.
You know, they
As long as they're getting good metadata and content, they don't care.
Exactly.
Right?
They care. Yeah. So,
All right,
I
any
hear that
ideas?
you were on Livewire.
Oh yeah,
Whoa.
nobody knows what Livewire is.
Really?
We're gonna go right into that though, huh?
Let's
I was
do it.
I was actually gonna cross it off, but you're just talking about it.
Yeah, I'm very,
All
very
right.
interested. This is for the OPB crowd.
Yeah, which is all on
Oh,
like
the
on this
three of
stream
us,
right now.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's PRI Public
Radio
Radio
International.
Yeah, and
We're
it's like
nerds.
this little talk show. You know, actually, I listened back to it, and they like edited out almost all of it. But basically, it's this kind of like radio talk show where they have comedians and you know, like the vegan chef and a blogger and all these people, and then they do little skits. But they have like a little kind of Max Weinberg style house band that plays the guests on and off and everything, and so they needed a fill-in bass player. So I got this gig, and you can check it out. It's just like Google Livewire Radio, and you can see it. And I was on the latest show, and it's just the little music that you hear in the background as the guests are coming on and off. But what's really the most interesting thing about it, from my perspective, was seeing how they set up a show like that. And seeing how the bumper music is actually created. Like in this case, there's like a band director and there's one little rehearsal, and the band director's like, all right, let's think of some like bumper music. I just need 10 seconds. And I was like, what about this like Frank Zappa riff? And she's like, all right, great, next. And we had to like come up with a bunch of these.
That's
It's just
awesome.
like a little clip from I was like, what about the first like intro bars of Epic by Faith No More? Yep, great, let's do it, you know? And it was just like, you just play 10 seconds of it, and the hardest part about it is you're doing it on stage, and like there's a whole thing going on around you, and so it's not like, you know, when you're playing in a band, your show or whatever, if something's not working, you're just like, hang on a sec, or you can like tune real quick, and you know, it doesn't matter that you're making these extra sounds, but when you have this talk show happening around you, and there's like guests on stage and they're being interviewed, you can't like, take a moment to like make sure your like sound is right, so you really gotta just like trust everything. And then, you know, the other thing about it is that you don't have much lead time when you actually have to play. So they'll just be like, all right, here's this comedian, Mateo Lane, and the music director just looks at you and goes, 3, 4, and you're just, boom, you're just like having to play, and you don't get to like figure out what you're playing ahead of time or like just play around a little, you know, like in your
Nice,
band,
yeah.
you just like play the chords.
just go for it.
Yeah, but in this case, you have to be silent and then on, and then 10 seconds later you're done. So playing in a backup house band for a talk show is a very unique experience. It's not like just being in a normal band. But I did get to do that, and it was a very fun experience, and you know, made $300.
Hey, can't
There
complain.
you go.
Yeah.
Super cool experience.
Yeah. You should have come, Rusty. You should have come all the way up to Seattle.
You know, send
to
me an
watch
invite
it.
next
I
time.
know. I didn't even. There,
I'll
there
just
was.
say I'm interested.
Yeah, maybe. All right,
Yes.
all right. We'll do the questions later.
Sounds good.
I'm going through this little list I have here. Interesting musical experiences since the last live stream. I had that one. I think maybe Rusty had one that he would want to talk about, since we're throwing to each other here.
For those of you that had certain expectations going into the Super Bowl halftime show, that a certain band was going to play a specific song from a specific television show And then they did 5 seconds of trumpet sounds, and then it went straight into Travis Scott, and you were disgusted with yourself, with the NFL, and with the world. Boy, you weren't alone. Soundrop artist and resident cool guy, Ro Panugati,
Resident cool guy.
took that saltiness, that frustration, and he channeled it into something that was really, really cool. What he ended up doing was he posted on Facebook, I think it was on the Thursday after the Super Bowl, he was like, I'm covering Sweet Victory from SpongeBob, and if you want in, you have 24 hours to record a track. And I just, on a whim, asked him if he needed 12-string for it, and he said yes.
12-string acoustic, 12-string electric.
12-string electric, yeah. You know, you really want to be live with it, so that's the way to go. And so, yeah, like, recorded some stuff, sent it his way, got added in. This was my first time ever being a part of a collaborative album or single, and it was fascinating. I've never seen such organization and preparation.
That's
like
the Soundrop artists.
Yeah, what these guys do. I mean, it was like backing tracks without each individual instrument. Very, very specific. Like,
you got the backing tracks.
we got all the backing tracks, yeah, and then it was just like you record yourself playing to it. For electric guitars, you just record straight in DI, and then he reamped it depending on, you know, the kinds of needs that he had for those specific tracks.
So what did you record into?
I have
use Reaper or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. So I use Reaper as my digital audio workstation, and yeah, I just like plugged straight in. I have the Scarlett Solo. It's like a 2-channel recording interface, and I just plugged my guitar literally into, well, I plugged it into a pedal board so I could tune, and then I plugged straight into my computer, and then just played along with the backing tracks.
Just send it to Ro?
Yeah, and then I just uploaded the track to Google Drive that was shared between everybody, and then they mixed it together, and then the video was out 2 days later.
Did you hear yourself in the mix?
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel Bryan.
At the beginning of the song, there's piano and my 12-string, and it's right there, right up front. Their professionalism and just how quick they're able to do this and do it at such a high quality was fascinating.
Because that's what these guys do.
Yeah, every week. It's really, really
mind-blowing.
interesting. Yeah.
But I think it's that, like, hey, here's your window to record, and you get it to me then, and if you don't, then you're not in it. And so it's just like the people who can hang, and the people who can't just don't get involved.
Yeah. But yeah, it was eye-opening, and you know, I've always kind of wondered. We get like revenue split requests and stuff like that from labels, and so we kind of have, you know, like we know it goes into compilation albums, but it's really different to be in the ground floor with all of the notes and everything. And there lots of SpongeBob memes throughout the whole Google Doc as well. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to take part in something like that, but I only play bass, and I know Ro doesn't ever need bass because he's got that sick like yellow fanned fret dingwall thing. Oh,
it's a it's like a Dolabello or something like.
That's his guitars.
Okay.
His guitars are Dolbello, but his bass he always plays is like, yeah, it's one of those weird. Have you ever played one of those weird fan fret things?
Yeah, the multi-scales. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, because it fans in different directions so that your intonation is the same the whole time.
What do you mean? So we'll get into fan fret technology in a future live stream that'll never happen.
Help.
But if anybody is interested in seeing Rusty's cool 12-string, we would bring that on a live stream. That would be fun to like do a gear talk segment or something.
Yeah, a rig rundown.
Rig rundown.
I'm always into that.
Is that weird? Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
All right, that's a common phrase. All right, so, I'm the king of hearing a common phrase and it's new to me, and I'm like, what?
You've revolutionized
rig rundown? How did you think of that? So good. And then everybody's like, that's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Pony.
Petrucci said that like 30 years ago.
John Petrucci.
Yeah.
Dream Theater. Mm-hmm. The new Dream Theater is pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Cool.
Before I start talking about the new Dream Theater album,
let's get away from that as fast as possible.
We should move on. So this whole thing about Rusty doing the collaboration with Ro and those guys.
Yeah, that got us talking.
That got us talking, and we realized that a ton of people do collaborations and release them through us. And it's a very cool trend. You know, it's a really good way for artists to take advantage of each other's audiences and gain exposure and get new fans. But there are a lot of considerations when you're actually distributing the release. You know, who's going to manage the content? How's everybody getting paid? What are the splits and everything? But the first step is just thinking about how you want the metadata to appear, how you want the album to look on the different services, and how the way that you actually set it up in Soundrop plays a really big role in how it ends up appearing. I mean, it's more than just the cover art. So what we're going to do is run through in a little painful detail how the different ways that you can set up multiple artists on the same release and what those look like on different services depending on how you set them up. So this is going to be just me kind of like running through each one of these, and these guys will talk about them. And I think Rusty can even kind of show some examples. So let's get started with setting up collaborations in Soundrop. Is that the best title for that?
Sure.
Yes.
Maybe I'd say setting up the metadata for collaboration releases. What should I say?
No, it's setting up collaborations, right? Because of some of the other things we're going to talk about, like revenue splits and those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's everything that goes into collaborating.
It's artist
with
roles
another
and how they
artist.
look
Yes.
on albums and tracks.
Yes. How it actually appears on the services like Spotify and
Because that's
Apple
really,
and
at the end of the day, like that's what everybody cares about. You know, you can put whatever kind of connections, whatever makes sense, but if it's not going to display how you want it to.
Yeah. And it's far too often when somebody just kind of hammers through the setup process, it gets out there, and then they go, oh God, this isn't how I wanted this to look.
Yeah.
It's not linking up correctly, so forth and so on. So we're going to run through exactly how to do it.
Let's do
for
it.
each scenario. Okay, so let's start with probably the least common scenario in a collaborative effort here. So it's like you want we call it a compound artist name. So that's if you want to create a new artist name that's distinct from each of the actual artists that are appearing on it. So you think you've got Paul Simon, you've got Art Garfunkel, and they've got a project called Simon and Garfunkel. So Simon and Garfunkel is its own artist profile, distinct from Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. And I think Rusty,
Yep, we're there.
We're
there. All right, it's already
got
showing.
it.
Yeah, keep going.
Show the screenshot. There it is. We've got it. So Simon and Garfunkel, Captain and Tennille, Coheed and Cambria?
Yep.
Is that
Well,
two?
because that's not their names.
Okay,
that's
so that
just
doesn't
like
count.
the name.
There's
of the
not
band.
like a Bill Coheed and Rick Cambria.
No, but
Right.
let's change our names and start Coheed and Cambria.
It's already taken.
Right. It all depends.
We would have to have an artist separation.
Well, it's probably on the blacklist too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It all depends on whether somebody has, like, this is your actual artist name. Like, Brick and Mortar wouldn't be a compound artist, right?
Because it's just
like,
the name of
it's
a
just
band.
But if it's the actual names of the artists, that's what makes it compound.
Rick
Right.
Brick and Marty Mortar.
So if in that primary artist field, if you put in Panyganti and Powers, that's going to create an artist called Panyganti and Powers.
Right.
Right.
So as you can see in this example here, how does it display? Where you see Simon and Garfunkel, and
Right.
there's an artist page.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Simon
It's a
and Garfunkel.
singular artist. You wouldn't be able to click Simon or Garfunkel to get into their individual pages.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's example one.
that's example one. Compound artist names.
Let's check out the second example. What if it's a collaboration between two artists, but it's not a project of those two artists? It's
Yeah.
just two people working together, or two bands working together.
Two separate primaries, right? That have kind of equal billing.
And as an example, I picked my favorite Portland noisy industrial disgusting band, The Body, and the New Orleans
The Body.
sludge band, Thou. They put out this album, Released from Love, You Whom I Have Always Hated.
Oh, yes!
It is so gross and so nasty. And they have their own things going on, so they kept it separate.
Right. So anytime you do a collaboration with someone else and you're trying to decide, should I make this a compound artist or should it be two separate primary artists, what you want to think is, do any of these artists perform on their own under the same name? So if Simon and Garfunkel's names were Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, that would be two separate primary artists that perform on their own. But Simon and Garfunkel is one thing, they only perform together. So anytime someone performs individually, always two separate primary artists.
Right.
Yeah, so in this example here where you have what are Thou and The Body are two separate bands that played together on this album, but they should receive kind of equal billing.
Right.
They're both primaries, and that's the important thing is the equal billing.
And they're on every track too. So you notice on Spotify, it shows as The Body and Thou, and then on each of the tracks individually, there's no mention of either band names because they're on everything.
They're both the primary artists on every song.
Right.
Right. That being said, if you do have a primary artist on only a few tracks, they should still be the primary artist on the album level. We should never have a time where there's a primary artist on only a track and not the album. Because if you're primary, then it means you were so instrumental in the making of this album that you should be credited.
Yeah, so that's the key. That's kind of the key phrase to keep in mind when you're adding multiple primaries to the same track or album. It's equal billing. Rebecca, I think that little distinction about the album and track.
I think that's spot on.
That's good info. That's good info.
We got first good info of the evening.
Yes.
I know,
Nailed
and
it.
we're only a little ways in here.
All right. Well, what about featured artists? So let's say you don't have equal billing, and you know, like what I did for Rose Track, it would be considered a feature.
Right. You are a featured artist, and potentially, would it even make sense to credit you on this? Are you credited?
I'm credited in the credits on YouTube, but as far as I know, it hasn't actually been distributed yet.
This is something where you want to be careful when you're adding featured artists, because if you're adding them as featured artists, they're all going to display.
Right.
So keep that in mind. When you're adding featured artists, they're going to display on Spotify or Apple Music, and probably the others as well.
On Spotify, it's not as big of a deal because what you can see actually. So we pulled up Time Cop 1983, and you can see featured artists on individual tracks.
What is Time Cop 1983?
It's synthwave.
All right.
And it's awesome. I highly recommend it. So what's cool about this is
the contents of Rusty's mind are wonderful. Sorry.
You know, I'm all about genres.
Yeah, you are.
So yeah, you can see these featured artists. If there were multiple featured artists, they'd just be comma separated. So that doesn't make things terribly crazy. But on iTunes, you can see that the featured artists are actually part of the track title. So when you feature multiple artists over and over again, your track title is somehow now just like this massive, massive thing. You can't even read it.
Right.
What's the point?
Yeah, and go
sorry.
ahead, Rebecca.
To add to that, speaking of, to go along with kind of the primary artist role and how that works on the album level, if you have a featured artist and they are featured on every single track, they should also be at the album level.
Nice.
If they're only featured on a few tracks, actually anything besides every single track, they should not be at the album level.
So that's the difference between primaries and features.
In terms
One more
of
time,
where
then.
they should be credited.
Primaries should always be at the album level, no matter which tracks they appear on. Features should only appear on the tracks that they appear on.
And then if they're on every track, it's on the album level also.
Yes.
Which would be the case for singles.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and that little thing, if you notice on Apple Music, oh, can I do this successfully?
Do it.
On Apple Music,
I like it.
it actually looks like it adds it into the track title, but that is not somebody typing that featuring whatever into the track title, right?
No.
That Apple just does that when you put a featured artist name in the featured artist field.
Correction. We do that when you put a featured artist in the featured artist field because we know that each partner requires different formatting. So when we send stuff to Apple, we have featuring so-and-so in the track title. When we send it to Spotify, it doesn't. It has a separate featuring artist role.
Yeah.
So
second good info of the night, Rebecca.
Yes.
This really is your wheelhouse, though, so it's not...
All about it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Also, someone keeps score.
All right, 2 to nothing to nothing.
Oh,
All right, let's keep moving.
Rusty's got plenty of good info, everybody, don't worry.
It's not a competition. All right, let's
Except
move.
I just made it one.
I know. You're gamifying everything.
Oh, no.
All right, so check this out. So what if we have multiple primaries and multiple features? Like, how can
my
things
God.
start to spiral a little out of control?
They already have Rusty powers.
That's right. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Back when Def Jam was king and Method Man and Redman were putting out music.
Oh my God, what year was this?
Hold on.
99.
I have a fun fact about this. When I bought my car, this CD was in the CD player.
That's
and
a
it
good
was
sign.
just a
Oh, yeah.
great sign.
I'm gonna return that car immediately.
My drummer
No.
just bought a car, and the CD that was in the CD player was a mixed CD that had him and Limp Bizkit on it. So I think you did way better than he
I
did.
did so
He also
much
bought a
better.
cherry red Ford Focus, and he's out of the band now.
Oh.
Because of that?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Man, I thought you had
brutal.
taste.
That's the metal scene in Portland,
right.
Oregon,
Yeah.
everybody.
Keep it real.
Do not you dare drive a Focus.
We won't
Also, happy
talk
birthday,
about...
Dylan, if you're watching.
Aw.
Oh, it's his birthday?
Happy
And you just
birthday.
made fun of him on the live stream?
Oh, I'll do it again.
Oh my God.
All right, let's keep going. So, Method Man
7
and
people are like laughing at this poor bastard.
Beautiful.
Aw.
You gotta
Poor
kill me.
Dylan. Poor Dylan. You shouldn't
Sorry,
have gone
Dylan.
electric. When he gets an electric car, is it going to be when Dylan goes? Oh God, my. Thank you. Yeah, that was like these are the old,
Not good.
old man
Not good.
references.
All right.
All right. So multiple featured. Did we get to that yet? Yeah,
So we're
that's
here.
where we're here.
Let's
Right.
talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got all kinds of featured people, all featured artists all over your album. Multiple featured artists on a single track. It's like a what's his name, DJ Khaled album with all like, but instead of Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper, you have who?
Well-
Rusty. You have Rusty.
So Method Man and Redman are the primary artists for the album. So you'll notice that they do not show up on any specific track on Spotify because they're on every track.
Album level artists.
Album level
Yeah.
primary artists. And then they have featured artists on track 5. They have LL Cool J and Ja Rule. And so you'll see those two show up on the track level, but they don't show up on the album level because they're only featured on that song.
Right.
Good times.
And I think it's important to note that in all of these cases where you enter in the artist name precisely as that artist's name appears on their existing profiles on Spotify and Apple, it will actually link to them if
Right.
you enter it correctly.
Right.
And it matches. Potentially it would match to a different artist by the same name if it's spelled exactly the same way, but we fix all that.
Now,
if
do
it
featured
happens.
artists, do they show up as appears on in Spotify?
Yes.
So that's a distinction as well. Primary artists will, like this release would show up under albums for both Method Man and Redman. For LL Cool J, it would show up under his appears on.
Right. So this goes back to what Colby Dude was asking earlier is, so does the album show up on each individual artist page and does it show up as their latest release? The answer for primary artists, which is what he was asking, was yes, it does. For our featuring artists, it will just go under appears on.
Yeah.
Under appears on.
Right. And if we look at Apple Music and iTunes, this kind of shows you why featuring artists are listed in the track title. So if we look, Method Man and Redman are listed as the artist on every single track, and then you can see the featuring artists
LL Cool
in
J, yep.
the track title. So you can imagine if the featured artists were in the artist field, how crazy that would look. So you'd have like 7 artists potentially listed out.
Okay. Yep.
So this makes it very clear.
Yeah. So all these services that we distribute to, they each have a method to their madness, to use unfortunate matching terminology. But all of this stuff is defined or it is presented in the way that it's presented based on how you enter it when you're setting it up. So
Right.
it goes to show that the difference between a primary artist and a featured and a with and all that stuff really comes into play. So let's talk about some of those other roles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a big one that comes up. We have
Composers and producers.
composers,
Yes.
producers, other credited artists. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but only performing artists that are listed as such as a primary or featured actually appear in that kind of top level view as artists, right?
Unless it's classical,
Which we'll get to.
which we'll get to.
With an exception for classical. But aside from classical, is that correct?
Remixer should appear.
With.
Remixer and With will appear.
Okay.
They are a little different on different partners. So on some partners, they might show up like a primary. On some partners, they might show up like a featuring. Some partners, they might not show up at all. So really, if you want 100% for a performing artist to be credited on every single partner, it's best to use primary and featuring.
That's the most universal
Right.
of all of them, yeah.
Before we move on anymore, let's talk about the remixer thing just a little bit, because I don't.
That's,
oh wait.
that's a little further
Yes.
along.
Oh, are we going to get to that?
Oh, we will.
We'll
All right.
get
What do
to
you?
it.
Okay. Oh yeah, we've got the screenshots in a certain order
Yep,
here.
we're
right?
looking performed by, written by, and produced by on
Right.
Andy Case's Bubblegum and Cigarettes, which is a wonderful song. It will get stuck in your head.
I watched the video once and it made me sweat and feel dirty.
So
a
written
good
by
way.
is showing the composer is the writers and composers. And then produced by is the producer.
Yeah.
And that's only visible if you right click and select show credits.
Right.
And that's only on Spotify?
And that's on Spotify.
All right. So as of March 4th, 2019, only Spotify is actually displaying credits.
Are we
That's-
sure that Apple Music might too?
Apple Music might. So when you download a track on iTunes and you click Get Info,
Right,
then you'll
that's
see
where it displays
credits.
to from the files themselves.
Right. So partners will display this information in different ways. Spotify makes it really readily available.
What are all the roles that people can select? Or is there just a ton of
Oh,
them?
so we have a ton of roles. I just published a Help Center article that I'll
Ooh.
throw into chat.
Yeah, let's do
We
that.
got more roles than the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Oh no.
What?
No, I mean that's a good one.
Thanks.
So yeah, we have a lot of expanded roles. A lot of classical ones,
Yes.
like tenor, soprano,
Now,
lyricist.
do the services like Spotify and Apple and everything, do they actually support all those different roles? Like they'll show whatever we send them, they'll put in the credits?
For Spotify classical music?
Or do they
I
tell
think
us
so.
what roles they'll display?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So we only let people choose roles that
That
are...
will actually go
Yeah,
anywhere.
so that's why we don't have like hype man, referee, like whatever kind
Yeah,
of fucking
best
weird
boy.
role. Best boy.
Yeah. So that's the idea.
All right, cool. Are there? Oh yeah, classical. Okay, are we ready to get into classical
Let's do
music?
some
here?
classical.
Let's talk about classical.
All right, so classical will actually, depending on whether it's the primary or secondary genre, it will display differently on iTunes. It will display the same on Spotify.
Okay, let's just slow down here for a second and let me explain this in a way that Pony could understand.
Oh boy.
When you set up an album, I know this is going to take a while, but we got.
Let's
when
do
you
it.
when you set up an album, you pick two genres. So there's like the primary genre and there's the secondary genre. And if you pick classical music or classical as the primary genre, things behave differently than if you pick it as the secondary genre or don't pick it at all.
Right, and so we can see that here, that on iTunes, if classical is the primary genre, the composer is actually listed, not the artist
Right.
on each track.
This is if classical's the primary genre.
Right.
It treats the composer a certain way for obvious reasons. You know, if the composer is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart,
Yeah, you're playing their music, you arranged it maybe in a certain way.
but they want to see, the people that are looking for Mozart want to see Mozart. So
Right.
they list it as, they put it under Mozart as if Mozart is the artist,
Yeah.
which is weird. But that's classical music. It's different rules.
Right. So you can see who's performing if you look at the album level.
Right.
And at the track level, we see the composers, so exactly what Pony said. We know what composer is performing. Also, if you made a specific arrangement, you should also be credited as the
an
arranger,
arranger.
which
Yeah.
I just threw the publishing roles in chat, so
Beautiful.
you can check that out. There's special roles about adding arranged by in the track titles, but we can cross that bridge when we do an in-depth classical
Are we not going to do that right now?
No,
stream,
we
no.
will totally save that for sometime way later.
We should have Mike Bugby on as a guest.
That's a
We
really good idea.
should.
Yeah, and so you'll also see that for Spotify, it shows the composer on the album level because that was the composer for both tracks.
So sometimes you're going to be, and we've seen this happen before, where people do a classical version of a Undertale or Final Fantasy or whatever. Yeah. So with Undertale specifically, that's kind of an issue if you put classical as your primary genre, right? Because it's going to display the composer of the Undertale music
Even
as an artist.
even if you put it as a secondary genre too,
Right.
because for Spotify they still give the composer, and it looks like a featured artist on every
or
track.
a secondary primary, or a second primary, another primary.
Yeah, there we go.
That's why we have to have these live streams every day, you guys, because I'm never going to be able to retain this information.
But yeah, that's the idea. And so like for modern compositions, like this Daigoro 789, who is super excellent if you haven't listened. Wonderful piano arrangements.
It's really good.
So
Yes.
you know, they did the Spirit Away soundtrack and as piano versions. And you'll notice that the original composers of each song is listed on each track.
Right.
It's a lot to keep in mind when you're doing this. Just do we have an article in the Help Center all about classical? Like how
We
this-
have a whole classical section
Ugh.
under
Yeah, we do.
metadata formatting, which
Just
I will
overwhelming
throw.
amount of good info here.
The cup overfloweth with good info.
Yeah, the main thing to keep in mind if you're going to release something that's classical or you're rearranging a track that's not classical into a classical style is that does that person who wrote the track release music on their own? If so, your release is going to show up like they were a primary artist on their artist page. So it's really good to keep in mind. You probably don't want that to happen if the person releases their own music. It's just going to clog up their catalog. You'll want to avoid that classical genre altogether.
Yeah, and potentially they might even ask us to take it down for
Yeah,
that reason.
exactly.
So avoid unless you're sure it's going to be fine.
If you want to see what a kind of a hellscape it could turn into, just look up Hans Zimmer.
Yes, it can definitely be rough. There's some composers who I'm guessing like Hans Zimmer who are cool with it.
Yeah.
So what I would do if I were thinking about submitting something in the classical genre that's either not typically classical or is from like a video game soundtrack, movie soundtrack, I'd go to that composer's page and see what's there. If you see a bunch of stuff by a bunch of different artists, you're probably good to go submitting under the classical genre. If it's just that artist's stuff on that page, don't submit under classical.
They obviously care.
Yes.
Yep. And what'll happen if you do that, it shows up, somebody says, hey, you got to take that down. Then we have to take it down, fix the metadata, and then resubmit it. It just disrupts your distribution. It's not worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So composer, classical, producer, we covered that. Other credited roles.
Let's do some.
Real quick, okay, if you're doing a cover song, the original artist, never put them anywhere on there, right?
They should only be credited in the writer section, which we will automatically do when we obtain your mechanical licensing.
Right.
So you just put them in the licensing request and we take care of the rest.
Yeah, and that's just in the publishing section, right?
Yes.
When you're filling out the
yeah,
album.
you
so don't
never
put them
include them as a featured artist or anything.
not a
Right.
featured, not a primary, no other role, not writer or arranger. Don't put the original artist there, except for in the publishing section.
And don't put them in track titles either.
Yeah, no track titles.
Don't put anything, no artist names in the track titles, even the features, right?
Even the features, there are some exceptions. We can talk about karaoke tracks sometime in the future.
But yeah,
And-
99 out of 100
Yeah.
times, you're not going to want to do that.
Exactly. The main thing to keep in mind, cover song, fill out the licensing request. The publishing section, when you're submitting original music, that's where all that good show credits stuff is going to appear.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of roles there. So I think, it might be a little confusing if we say don't list them as a writer. You should definitely credit anyone who wrote as a writer, but for cover songs, we'll take care of crediting the writer for you.
Right, we get all of that information back, delightfully formatted,
Yes.
and we send it off accordingly.
So let us take care of that part.
Yeah. You wanna talk remixes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
Should
gonna
we
do
get to
remix.
it?
All right, let's do
talk
remixes.
So we've got Tokyo Dream, the remixes with Kabuki.
Yay!
Yay!
Ow! Is that too loud on this little weird mic?
Part of Tiny Waves.
Yeah. Nice to
T-shirt.
nice to rep.
Yes.
Good info.
info.
Tiny Waves is a label. That's
Tiny
good
Waves
info.
is a label. Yes.
Yeah.
A good label. I need a good label sign.
I was watching Ben Briggs on his Twitch channel the other night after they did that video premiere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just him and Super Mario Galaxy, and it was just him just like ready to throw his controller, trying to. It was a great time. Highly
hi,
recommend
Ben.
it.
Aw.
Hi,
Also,
Ben,
what's up,
wherever
Ben
you are.
Briggs?
Yes.
So Remixes album. These 3 artists did the original song, and now we have remixes from other artists.
Right. So it's very rare that you're just doing a remix of your own song that would be where you would credit yourself as the original artist and the remixer.
You would
right?
You would
never
not do
do
that.
that.
Never do that.
No,
I mean,
not ever.
don't ever do that.
No, if you're remixing yourself, it's redundant to be like
So
"Yo,
rare,
I'm the-
don't ever do
I'm the
it."
producer / choreographer / arranger / primary artist. I feature myself because I remixed myself. No.
No.
Look.
Rebecca, do you not talk to at least one person a day who would do exactly what Rusty just described?
Yes.
It happens.
You,
Don't do it.
you deserve all of the credit, and that credit comes in when talking about your performing rights organization. So credit yourself everywhere with your PRO. For metadata, for music distribution, you don't want to be credited in multiple places besides being an artist and in the publishing role wherever you fit in your publishing role.
Right.
All right. Any more metadata stuff, or have we pounded that into the ground?
Well, I guess the only other thing with remixes that we would
Tons of
mention
material.
is that the remixer is included as an expanded artist role, and it just looks a little bit different on Spotify versus iTunes. You'll see that for iTunes, it's the remixer's name and then remix. We also have that on Spotify, but then the remixers.
How did they fill that in? That's the title version?
That's the title version.
Yeah, the title version, and then they are also like the remixer as an expanded artist role.
Yep.
Right. And using the
Got it.
artist name in the title version for a remix is totally appropriate on an album like this, where you're going to have multiple remixers.
Right.
When you don't have multiple remixers, you don't want to use so-and-so remix for every single track they remixed. You want to give a description. So you can just say remix. You can say electronic remix, dubstep remix, anything that describes the content. If you're doing a remix collaboration, you can use artist names.
Right. Cool. I think that's it
Yes.
for all of those
Okay.
different types of artist roles and how they appear.
Metadata, we've covered it all in
We-
terms of how to enter the artists that you're collaborating with.
And what
But
it
there's-
looks like.
And what it looks like. There's still, however, a question of whose account should it be in, because it can only be managed by a single account. Multiple people might have performed on it, and multiple people might be getting the money from it, but only one account can actually own the album.
Right.
So, who's going to be managing that content going forward? Who has the most experience just distributing music and dealing with a music distribution platform? Because we can split the revenue between multiple accounts, it doesn't really matter that much to us. So I would say whoever's kind of taken the lead on the project, whoever's just the most savvy with dealing with distribution of music should probably be the ones to set it up. Are there any other tips for deciding like whose account should it be in?
Yeah, I think just whoever's the most savvy, whoever's taking the lead, really whoever you want to, it's going to be visible, like all the revenue and the activity, it's all going to be visible for
Right.
every person who's listed in the revenue split. So it really isn't a big deal. Like no one's going to be really missing out besides the editing ability. So whoever would be best suited to edit the metadata of your submission.
Right. And yeah, once you have that all figured out, you can, if you do have a revenue split that you want to set up, we're happy to take care of that for you. In case you were curious as to what it actually looks like on our end, this is an example contract
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Setting up the revenue splits.
Yeah, so you can see, we have some naming conventions.
Do that
we
every
pick
day.
start and end dates. Start date is whenever you send it to us. End date is somewhere very, very far in the future after we're all long dead.
Oh dear.
Oh boy.
Especially me.
Yeah. Wait, what? Perfect. And so what you can see is different payees, different percentages, what kind of albums and tracks are related to that, and then digital terms. We take 15%, and so the remaining 85% gets divvied up across these different payees for these different types of downloads and streams.
Right. And what's the difference between a payee and a licenser?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
So the payees are the actual people who are getting paid on a release, and then the licensor is either an artist or a label name that has the album or the track that is being
account?
distributed. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay, so the licensor is the person who actually owns the content in their account, can edit it, manage it, distribute it, all that stuff.
Right.
And then the payees are everybody, including the licensor.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't
It doesn't
have
have
to
to be,
be.
but typically it
Usually.
is.
Typically it is, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's the idea.
Yeah, Rusty.
Everybody gets one.
See if I can totally block out poor Rebecca's face here. Okay.
I do want to add one thing,
Please.
just as a question we received in from the inbox. Setting someone up with a revenue split does not mean that they are a contributor or listed as a certain type of artist on the album.
Right,
So,
and if they aren't, they're more in line with being a silent partner.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
So just to make sure when you submit a release and you're hoping for someone to be listed as a primary artist, listing someone as an equal contributor in a revenue split does not mean the same thing as setting them up as a primary artist.
Right.
So I just want to clear that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that adding somebody as a payee or saying, hey, split the revenue doesn't automatically make them credited.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
All right, so I think we have said a lot about that, and we'll move on now, but it is important that you think about this stuff when you're getting into the collaboration. Make sure everybody's on the same page. You want to have a plan, and just think about how you want the release to look when it's out there in the wild, because you actually have control over it when you're setting it up right there in Soundrop. Okay. Was that a good tie out?
That was great.
I think it was tied out.
All right, let's move on to the inbox here. Somebody asked, Natsu asked on Twitter, can I have title, Shazam, and content ID? Whoa there, Natsu. No, and no. No, I'm just kidding.
Not yet, and not yet.
Not yet, because Rusty is building something that will make all of this a lot easier.
All of your dreams some of your dreams come true.
Basically, what we're going to have is an option that's going to be right there in Soundrop where you can say, either at the album level or at your entire account level, send all of my content to every single store that you guys ever add ever, or just say, yeah, just this release, just make sure it's everywhere. And you could even go into your account and say, oh yeah, just make sure all my stuff is on just these stores or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right, Rusty?
Yeah, that's the idea. So we're going to start with just releases and just for future stores. And so once we have that, we'll be able to start adding stores, and as they come in and they're fully tested and ready to go, then those releases will start getting automatically delivered, which is awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited for that. It's going to make things a lot more efficient and easy for you guys.
Yeah, content ID is going to be its own thing.
Oh yeah, content ID aside.
Yeah, we'll throw that somewhere else. And Shazam also, we need to be really careful because there's no way to pull content from Shazam.
Oh yeah, so
once you send it there,
it's
that's
there.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, definitely something that we're looking at. Title is it's going to be a thing. And there are some other stores I think that you guys will be really excited about too.
Oh yeah, we're gonna add, once we have this thing where you can, because right now if we add a new store, then you have to go into every single one of your releases individually and add them, or email us and say, hey, add all my stuff.
Right.
So we're gonna make it much easier, and then we can start adding stores. Content ID, on the other hand, we deal with so many cover songs that it's
the possibility of false positives and you covering a Drake song and then you claiming Drake's video. That's not good.
That would be the worst
We don't
case
want
scenario
that.
for us. So we have to just make sure we have really good systems in place to ensure that it never claims the original song that you guys are covering.
Yeah, and we're working closely with
be bad.
YouTube on that. So
Yeah. So we'll have we'll let you guys know, and we'll have updates as we have them for you. Danny Osborne in Instagram asked, "What's the history of Soundrop? How did it get started?"
Oh.
Whew. That's a long story, but I'll
the abridged version.
I'll do it as quickly as I can here. There used to be Louder, which was a licensing and revenue sharing platform that also did distribution. Louder, over time, decided they just wanted to focus on their licensing service. So the distribution, like all the content they were distributing, was acquired by a company called CD Baby, which a bunch of people know what CD Baby is. And then CD Baby, instead of just folding it into Soundrop or into CD Baby's catalog, the company that owns CD Baby started a new company called Soundrop, which is run independently and basically has all the features that the original Louder clients wanted. So that's integrated cover song licensing, very few upfront fees, automated rev splits on the back end. Is there anything else? I don't know what else. Basically just like a different distribution model for people who are doing a lot of cover songs and releasing frequently. Instead of like a 2-year, every 2 years we put out an album that we wrote all the music for, you're releasing a song every week that you didn't write, you just covered. So it's a different distribution model. And so that was like in 2016, I think, was the transition from Louder to Soundrop. And I don't know, it was a little shaky at first, but coming out on the other side a couple years later, everything's going well.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to like it. Everybody that stuck around likes it.
Yeah.
Which is almost everybody. Yeah. And we've even had some people that kind of like tried some other stuff during that transition, and now they're starting to come back to us.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty good thing going, and there's a lot more that kind of goes into our history, but that's the very abridged version of it. Somebody asked, is Soundrop in CD Baby's office? Yes, we have our own like little section that's within the CD Baby office, and those are our homies. We hang out with those guys, and
but we have our own
help
island
us.
of weirdness.
But we've got our own island of weirdness that you can see behind us.
This is our actual working environment.
They made us a big logo that we carry around with us that you can see up there. They made us a good info sign. We have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing really well here. I wonder if there's anybody from CD Baby watching right now.
Well,
if so, hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, you guys,
What?
there's other groundbreaking news.
Tell me.
So, in Star Wars, where they go into the... So maybe you guys have noticed I have like a little Star Wars theme set up here today with my Max Rebo band. But the star of my little setup here is, I think his name is Doik Knotts.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds right.
And you guys probably remember this guy as being the lead whatever player. I highly recommend that everybody go research what genre of music these guys played.
Ooh.
In the Mos Eisley Cantina band. It's very funny. Rebecca's going to do it now, and I'll know when she... Anyway, so there's a very specific genre of music. Anyway.
Huh. Alternative / indie.
No. You got to dig a little
you.
further. Go into the Wikipedia.
The Wikipedia?
The Wikipedia.
Of course. Yeah, they would.
Anyway, we're not going to screen share that, but
we are not going to screen
But
share.
I feel like I've gotten a little bit more inside knowledge of why maybe that genre is called that. But anyway, so this is an action figure that I actually stole from my son. But out of curiosity, so he has removable clothing, and out of curiosity, I decided to look at what Doik Knotts looks like
Nobody
under
knows where
his
this
shirt.
is going.
First I want Rebecca to see.
Oh no.
Look what he looks like under his shirt.
Unexpected.
Unexpected.
Hashtag
Who would have
unexpected
ever
six-pack.
thought that the guy from the Cantina Band was so fucking ripped? Oh, all right. Sorry.
All right.
All right.
That just amused me so much when I looked at that thing this morning. I was like, oh my God, they just took some generic ass like He-Man body and just like, they're like, nobody's gonna ever open up this little flimsy shirt.
Oh, and he's got his like
Yeah, his
neck
blobby
rolls,
neck rolls. Ah.
and then he's just like, ugh.
So that's what's on Pony's mind. Maybe we should ask a more important question, which is what's on Rusty's mind.
How am I even supposed to have anything
Can
on
you
my mind
follow
after
that? Can you
my
follow?
mind has been completely wiped. All right. As some of you may know, I love Half-Life and Half-Life 2.
Oh,
and I've been
man.
waiting for anything that's remotely like Half-Life for a very long time to come out. And a few days ago, a teaser trailer and some playthrough demos of the game Boneworks came out. Ben, do you think we could screen share this video?
Where's this going? Where
So,
is this going?
This is a VR game where you basically get guns and a crowbar,
Oh my God.
like in Half-Life. And again, this is
this
all
is like
in
me
VR.
getting out of work.
Whoa. And so the thing that I find really interesting about this is just, like there are these robotic head crabs. It seems very Half-Life-ish. And I think there's a lot of potential with like this being the VR game for this is going to be the one that is the breakthrough VR game if it's done well. The actual like playthrough video is I think something like 16 minutes long. It's on Node's YouTube channel. Absolutely go check it out. It uses
Oh my gosh.
Valve's
That poor robot. Oh, jeez.
yeah. I mean, they're bad robots.
Are people? Oh yeah, everybody's seeing this.
Yeah, exactly.
They're on Twitch. It's like, oh, Rusty's playing this game. Nope.
No, it's
We're just, like,
super,
watching.
super interesting. Yeah, lots of really cool physics.
Oh.
And you use knuckle controllers too. Valve's new like proprietary controllers, so it tracks your finger movements. So the playthrough video, the one that's 16 minutes long, just the guy just starts by flipping everybody off, and that's
Whoa.
Boneworks.
That
I think
looks
it's
trippy.
It's going to rule, and yeah, it is absolutely worth checking out. That's
Oh my
what's been on my
gosh.
mind.
I can see Rusty. What was that part where like all the people that look the same in the faces and then it blasts into space?
I have no idea.
Oh, you haven't played. Okay.
No, the game's not out. It's just,
Rusty
like,
can't stop thinking about
It
it.
finally like showed up on Steam stores, and it's like a core like Valve store ID, which is super interesting. So Valve is the company that makes Half-Life. They haven't.
I was like, is it?
They haven't put a game out. Well, no, it's this other developer, but like somehow it's linked to Half-Life. I don't know. I'm pretty stoked.
Well, maybe we can unstoke you
How so?
with the acapella pun name of the month.
Oh no.
So here at Soundrop, we specialize in cover songs, and acapella groups from colleges mostly tend to do a lot of cover songs, so they use a lot of Soundrop, and so we see a lot of funny acapella group names, and it's always funny to show ridiculous things to Rusty. So, Rebecca, here, let's show the camera first.
Show everyone first.
We were trying to get Rusty's reaction on here. This is the name
Oh,
of
did it
the.
come through?
Is it coming?
Can you see the text?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
You ready?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yep. Rusty,
Ready?
it is the Westchester University under
Under
arrest. Get it? Because
Complete.
like in music, there's like a rest, and they do music, so it's their under arrest.
I'm having an arrested development.
Oh! I don't know what that's supposed to mean,
Uh,
but we're
Yep.
gonna. Oh, I like just handing that thing off. I feel like Bruce Springsteen just like takes his guitar, chucks it off stage. Some dude just there to catch it. All right, Rusty, how did you like that a cappella group?
I thought that was
the month.
delightful and very clever.
Thank you, Westchester University under arrest. We know that you are the 2017 quarterfinalists in some a cappella group like competition.
Somewhere, somehow, these things happen.
Awesome. All right, I can see Rusty's got his clock out because he's going to time me. Because if there's one thing that an internet nerd no wait, hang on. We're going to take 2
nerd.
on that. Yeah, I know what I'm supposed to say. I just didn't say it.
I want to make this even a stronger challenge. The 1 minute, but I want you to try 1 or 2 of these tortilla chips that I brought today.
Rusty's going to make me eat spicy tortilla chips.
And then talk about wrestling for 1 minute.
Oh, God, okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know
This is revenge for the ranch soda.
Did Rusty even drink any of the ranch soda?
I did. It was
You did.
vile. All right, so
Vile.
I have Packy Haunted Ghost Pepper Chips. I want you to just take 2.
2?
Just 2. That's all you need.
Oh, they're big.
Yeah, I know. So 1 and then the other. Yeah, not this one.
Are you going to kill me here?
No, you're gonna be great. Everyone's gonna love it.
So what are the rules of engagement here? I just have to pop them in, munch them quick, and then start talking about wrestling?
And that's it?
Yes.
Are you ready?
You might get ranch soda on the side.
Oh, and very, very good advice from the Omega. Careful around the eyes after you touch
Kenny
those
Omega?
chips.
Yes.
So the
Kenny
clock,
Omega's
the clock
in there.
starts right after you.
Eat the second one.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
second one goes down.
You ready?
Wait, it's going to be hard to just talk with
No,
chips
you're-
in my mouth.
You're gonna
No.
be fine.
Do I have to swallow them first?
Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah. You
I was
put
gonna-
food in your mouth and then talk.
I like to know what the damn rules are.
You can wash it back.
Eat it real quick.
Here, I'll have one with you.
You're going to eat one too?
Sure.
But you don't have to talk about wrestling.
No.
I don't
you do.
have to talk
I
about
want
wrestling.
like a piece.
You might die.
But I was going to say, as a wrestling nerd, I'm going to do what wrestling nerds love to do, which is complain about wrestling on the internet. But I'm going to do it after eating 2 of these. What are they called?
They're haunted ghost pepper tortilla
Why are
chips.
they haunted?
You'll find out. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Oh.
Well, oh.
Oh. I'm like Chevy Chase in Three Amigos.
All right, you ready?
Harley, Harley, Harley.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll start the clock.
All right, start the clock. All right. It is getting close to WrestleMania here, and as we know, during every road to WrestleMania, the McMahons insert themselves into every major damn storyline. So we've got the Authority kicking Becky Lynch out of the main event and telling Ronda Rousey that she has to give them the belt or apologize. And basically, they're just like asserting their power into every storyline. Vince came in and he kicked Kofi out of the main event of Fastlane, which was probably going to get into WrestleMania, but we didn't need this. Triple H is going to have a match with Batista, which it's going to be fine, but in this situation, Triple H is supposed to look like the good guy, and we just saw him oppressing Ronda Rousey and shit. So this happens every year, and I actually went back through the last half dozen WrestleManias, and they all go like this. There's some authority figure storyline that feeds into WrestleMania. So we had Vince getting involved with Roman when he was going against Brock. We had Triple H winning the title for himself and then defending it against Roman. We had Triple H and Stephanie feuding with Ronda. We had the... Enough of the McMahons and WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's like WrestleMania 16. It was just all about the Oh, wait.
You're out of time.
I'm out of time.
And that means we're also out of time.
Oh, these chips.
How were they?
How was
They're
it?
making me sweat.
Yeah, I think I had 4 last night and I had to tap out.
I think this
time.
is launching me to Rocky Butte here.
My God.
My chip of a chip was the perfect amount of spicy. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I love it. Cool. Well, we're 7 minutes over. I think we did it.
We did it.
Yeah, let's
All
talk
right.
about the next stream.
Yeah, let's talk about the next stream if I can live through this.
Let's see if you won't be fooled again next stream because it's on April 1st.
We're going to be going live on April Fool's Day, and who knows what we'll do. Follow us on Twitter at Soundrop, Instagram at Soundrop Distro, and YouTube is youtube.com/Soundrop. My mouth is melting. I feel like my tongue is going to stop working momentarily here. So we'll see you on April Fool's Day.
It's been a blast. See ya.
Bye.
Oh my God.